Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist turned mindset and high performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. And today I'm bringing you a new and exciting interview episode. My guest today is Anne Ahola Ward, who was dubbed the mother of startups by CNN. She's an entrepreneur, futurist, published author, and the CEO of Circle Click Media. Anne entered the field of search engine optimization early on. She co-founded the leading digital marketing agency ClickCircle and has more recently led the way for advances in blockchain technology. And she has worked to devise social media strategies for world-renowned enterprises as well as startups at nearly every stage of growth. She was named one of Entrepreneur's 27 top masters of marketing that everyone can learn from in 2014 and top 50 inspirational entrepreneurs to watch in 2017. And as a web developer, she helped build Apple's distinguished educator community, which was one of the first true influencer programs to exist. She has also been invited to join social media influencer programs from Comedy Central, Funny or Die, and the elite IBM Futurist program. So welcome, Anne, and thank you so much for being on my show today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
It's an honor to have you. So the first thing I'd like to know, how did you become the mother of startups? Can you tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey so far?
Well, I have to say it came from being a turnaround person who would go into startups and turn them around and find profitability. And so doing that for better part of a decade earned me a reputation as a fixer in Silicon Valley. And then beyond that, Game of Thrones became a very popular television show. So my husband and other people would joke and call me startup mom because I had a sort of very intense way I would go into an organization and turn it around, and looking at things that weren't just marketing. And that morphed into mother of startups. And then my staff at the time sort of whispered that to CNN. And and then when I did that interview, I was like, okay, I guess this is out there. I don't mind. I've grown to like it. At first I was like, oh, I don't know. Cause I don't have children. It's kind of weird, but I definitely came to love it over time, because it sort of, glamorized a little bit of what I'm doing.
So it just stuck with you.
Exactly.
I mean, I talk to a lot of super successful people on my show, and one thing I always like to explore is the different meanings of success. So what does success look like to you personally? And maybe what's your personal definition of success and how has it changed over time?
I think that's a great question. I think success is very subjective. So for sure, in the beginning of my career, I would have said recognition. I was very thirsty to be recognized because I was doing a lot of behind the scenes work, but that really changed when my O'Reilly book came out. I had that, recognition from my peers. And now that I'm doing television pretty regularly and other things, that this doesn't feel like success. That feels like part of the job. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think true success is waking up and being happy to do what you are going to be doing all day, to wake up excited, to never groan about a Monday, is I think success, because money will come and go. You can earn more of it, you could spend less of it. That's sort of not a really great metric for success, because I know very wealthy people who are miserable. So I think success, at least for me in this point in my career, is happiness and fulfillment. So I have amazing clients. I'm happy with my team. I have a team of 6 that I love working with every day. And very nice clients. And I get to do what I want to do. I have my freedom. I think freedom is also autonomy, is another good metric of success, because I've never felt like, oh, the clock, is the workday over yet? That's not something I felt running my own business. And so, yes, I may work later than some people some days, but I actually don't mind. So to me, that feels like success.
I love that. And how do you translate that definition of success into maybe daily habits that help you get closer to your goals? What does your typical day look like?
Well, definitely the second I'm up, I'm watching news, reading news. Information is power. And I deal in, a very rapidly changing industry, search industry. The only constant in SEO and analytics data is change. So and I like to learn. So I constantly am gleaming information from industry blogs, curated newsletters, national news. I'm start out with my information feeds, and then I go from there to, obviously email and notifications. And then, talking to my team, figuring out what meetings I have. If I have a lucky day where I'm, just me, myself, and I'll try and write. I do try to write. I have a column on Grit Daily that I try to publish at least once a month.
Wow. So doesn't it feel overwhelming to start your day with that flood of information? This is something that I couldn't do personally.
Well, I'll tell you from experience, especially during the pandemic, that it is actually better to do it in the morning than at night.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If you have all day to digest anything good and or bad. I will say it's been rougher in times like these with the Ukraine and other things happening globally, that it's harder to put a smile on it, but it's also, I'm less likely to be upset by something I see on social media or something polarizing someone's posted on Facebook or Twitter, because I have gotten Associated Press, vetted, seen interviews for myself, and there's a credibility there. So I'm able to ignore other channels. So by having the information I want and curating it, I'm able to ignore the information I don't want.
Yeah, you really have to filter that one out, right? Because
Well, and you're easily spreading things that maybe not be true if you're not putting in the time to commit to understanding where that information comes from. So that's why I have trusted resources.
yeah, makes sense. Now, if I could help you instantly eliminate just one struggle in any area of your life, what would it be, and how would eliminating this one problem just positively impact your entire life?
Wow, you have like fairy powers
Yes,
or
it's just like that.
Oh, I think the only thing I still deal with that I thought would be better at this point in my career is gender bias. I think it's a lot better than it was. It's certainly got a significant improvement in with Me Too. Me Too was a very painful time for a lot of women, including myself, having to grapple with the sort of things that we'd all been putting up with. But there are simply not enough of us technical women who are out there talking about technology. And so that's why I do TV. That's why I do, I write, I try to put it out there to normalize. I think, before I pass on, my life's goal would be to normalize women in tech, to normalize that women are technical, and to have that not be questioned. Usually people don't question it directly. They're sort of a few reactions I get when people find out I was a developer and other things in my career. I started out as a developer. Oh, that's great. Like there's like a pandering answer. Like they're just like, oh,
So cute.
yeah. And it's well intentioned usually,
Mm,
but it's a novel. It shows me that it's still a novelty.
mm.
And, 20 years later, I'd hoped that maybe that would not be the case. And then there's the kind that want to test me. Oh, what did you code? Oh, where's your GitHub? Like I do have one, by the way, but I hung up that hat 10 years ago. So it's funny that some people want to test me, usually men. Feel around if I really am truly saying that, or if I really have that experience. So those sorts of biases I would love to not have to deal with in my day-to-day life, but it's not like it was. So that gives me hope that maybe
Yeah.
we're getting there. It's going to happen in stages. It's not going to ever be overnight.
Yeah, I think it's a slow progress, but we're getting there, hopefully. Yeah, and the reason why I love to ask that question is because so often I find that there's just this one thing that keeps people stuck. And it doesn't even have to be something major. Sometimes it's just, or oftentimes it's something that has a very strong emotional charge. That people just feel a lot of resistance around, so they don't want to work on it. But once you eliminate this one strong emotionally charged issue, it has these immense positive ripple effects in all other areas of your life too. So is that something that you've experienced in the past, where you had just this one domino and you just had to, get rid of that, and then you started this chain reaction?
Well, for sure. I mean, being a young woman in tech and, moving to Silicon Valley, not really knowing anybody, starting on my own, I definitely had a chip on my shoulder. From earlier experiences in my career, getting asked to get the coffee or answer the phone when I was a developer. I don't think male developers get asked that. So I think an insecurity comes from that, because you're different. And when you're different, you feel different. And so you impose your own weirdness on yourself. And so, that manifested as a little bit of imposter syndrome. And so the more success I experienced, the more confidence came with that over time. I wish that younger me knew how good she was,
Yeah.
but she had to learn that on her own, right? You have to learn that through experience. It's not something someone can pump you up or tell you or give you a poster to hang up in your room and you just look at it and you're like, yeah. You have to really grapple with what your insecurities are, face them, and then sort of address them in your own head and say, okay, is this really true? Am I really not good at this? Oh, wait, I am.
Yeah.
You kind of have to have that revelation for yourself. No one can do that for you, no matter how much they pump you up or support you. Because I had a lot of support at home. My husband believes in me. He's my number one fan. And I had a great upbringing, lovely parents, so it's not like there was anything personal feeding into that. It was more just those early professional encounters with sexism. And, I was in a new field too. I was, kind of doing something that didn't have a name yet when I migrated from developer to marketer. And so there was sort of I took a few jobs where they just still wanted me to do the website. I was like, no, you hired me for SEO. But they were like, no, build the website. I'm like, I can, but that's not, so there was a little bit of confusion in that being its own thing for a while. That took until I went out on my own to truly be its own job.
Right. Yeah, I totally understand that. And it's a process for sure. But anyway, since you are a futurist, I have to ask, so what do you think is the future going to look like? So for instance, how will artificial intelligence and augmented reality and virtual reality, how will all those things impact society, and how will it shape our way of living? What do you think?
Well, I definitely think that automation is coming. I think we're going to see that in the form of, whether it's robot delivery vehicles. I've seen them in my neighborhood in Austin, remote controlled robots that are bringing you packages and food and things that you want, pizza delivery by robot truck. I think autonomous everything is coming, and that could even be applied to financial systems. I think that we're going to see that with the advent of, blockchain and crypto. I've been in crypto in a long time. We're now calling it Web3, which I'm 100% fine with. It's like a beautiful rebranding. But I do think that, processes that are repeatable are going to be, automated. And I think that that applies across the board, whether it's software or hardware. I think AI, same difference, things that from as simple as like one of my favorite studies is Sepsis Watch from Duke University, where they were using AI to detect early signs of sepsis before doctors could, because that is the most common way that people die in hospitals, is sepsis. And so, automating the process of spotting that before the physical signs manifest, I mean, that's an incredible application. There are the less cool, much creepier applications like, facial recognition. The stuff that Clearview AI is doing absolutely terrifies me, that they're working with law enforcement. And, I think there's going to be a backlash there coming. Because there have been pretty egregious privacy violations across the board in some of these cases. But I think we're going to see more codeless coding. I think that's a trend that people are going to get on board with, especially as money becomes programmable, which it will with money on the blockchain. And, those are very exciting things. I think the future is here. It's just not yet distributed.
Right. And what about AI and like conflicts, like war? What do you think? What's happening in that area? Because that is something that I personally find really scary. I mean, last century wars were you had the atomic bomb, but maybe the next war would be I don't know. There would be hackers and a lot of AI, and I don't know what else, what they could do. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, digital warfare is going to be a new style of war, and I think
Yeah.
we're seeing it already. We're seeing signs of that with what's happening, and I hope by the time this comes out that we're in a more peaceful time. And
Hopefully.
I hope by the time this comes out that Russia and Ukraine will have found peace. But I do think that cyber warfare is only going to increase, especially as more of our financial systems with the DeFi movement and the DeFi matrix, as that comes online, there will be more rewards for people who are seeking to attack and destroy. I do think that, seeing these ransom cities being ransomed, that's obviously very troubling, but we learn from these experiences. I think when these things happen, we learn where our weak spots are, and then that learning can be applied to other cities so that they don't have that experience. And so I really don't believe in operating from a place of fear,
Yeah.
because inherently fear holds us back in life. So I think we personally all have to take responsibility for our own information, what we're putting online, always enabling two-factor authentication, not using the same password for everything. Don't have a single point of failure with your own personal information. And, you're probably okay. Set up credit monitoring, do all those sorts of things. Stay on the offense a little bit and you'll be fine. Most people will be fine. But the fact is, if your city is hacked and services are taken offline, you really don't, as a consumer, have a lot you can do, but you can stay informed. And I don't think it's something that we all need to be scared about, because there are many instances where these people are found and they're prosecuted. And, anything you do online can be traced. So,
That's good to hear.
yeah, I mean, in some form or fashion, yes, you can spoof things. Yes, you can hide behind certain things, but there are smart people that work on the side of good. And that's something to remember, is we're not defenseless.
Right. Do you think we're headed for a future where people spend more and more time in digital worlds rather than in the real world? And how will that impact consumer trends and the economy in general?
Well, I think one of the cooler applications of the metaverse is for sure going to be shopping. But I mean, that's been around for quite a while and hasn't really taken off. I think that younger people are more open to VR.
Mm.
I think the masses, I think there's two versions of the metaverse that we're going to see. One is the virtual reality, a completely immersive network of worlds. And then the second is augmented reality. So that is, the less personally immersive. So you're still aware of your own sense of self, but you're seeing, holograms and other things enhanced. I think people that are probably 30 and up are going to be much more comfortable with that than the completely immersive. I think there's just a faction of people who don't want to strap stuff to their face and completely lose a sense of whatever. I mean, I have a VR headset. I wouldn't say I use it a ton, but I do enjoy it when I use it. And I don't think that that's going to take over. We're going to all become pod people overnight. The reason that a lot of people don't understand the metaverse is that it's not really there yet. Facebook wants to make us think they own it by changing their name and other things, but they actually don't. There are multiple worlds. There always will be. And so I think there's a fear associated with it. There's some, possibility of addiction, but that was always true with gaming, and so I think some of the more exciting applications are going to be retail, commercial, construction, I think in medical too, for training. I think that's pretty cool to allow people to virtually operate and train as surgeons without ever touching, well, I mean, eventually, obviously they touch things, but you know what I mean? Like, I think those applications are pretty exciting. But do I think this is like going to happen tomorrow? No. I think the public tolerance of this, it's not there yet. I think that's going to be a generational thing.
Right. I mean, I assume that there are things like digital art and digital designer clothing or accessories for avatars, that those kind of things could become really big eventually. And I knew a bunch of people who were really into World of Warcraft like over 10 years ago, and who would even back then spend real money on digital weapons and artifacts and similar kinds of things, which, to be honest, is something that I could never understand. But I guess as more and more people spend more and more time in digital worlds or gaming, it makes maybe more sense to them to finally invest into their avatar's appearance as well, which kind of brings us back to that important question. If anyone can hide behind an avatar that they can design any way they want, how can we trust anyone in that new digital world? And what systems and protocols do we all need to have in place to protect our data, to avoid other people stealing our identities, and or to protect ourselves from being scammed?
I mean, we're already there.
Okay.
I have half a dozen friends, at least in the last few months, that have had their Instagram accounts either hacked or had people create cloned accounts. I've had several friends have cloned accounts appear that have all their photos ripped if they're public, and they're, acting as them and doing Bitcoin scams, promoting currencies. Like, I have seen, especially in the crypto space, a lot of people have their identities ripped off in all their pictures. So that's already happening. I think it is lovely to think that the metaverse will be a utopia, but the fact is that it's going to be full of real humans, and real humans can be jerks. And so there's going to be some of that, of course, but that's where you have the power of choice of which worlds do you participate in? Who do you talk to? Do you feel safe talking to them? Are you talking to weirdos? Like, you're going to have to judge that for yourself, because as we've seen, social media sites and companies, they can't really regulate, they're having issues regulating free speech versus harassment versus misinformation. I mean, Section 230 is a hotly debated item, and it still really is no further than it was before. So I think, it's nice to think we're going to do it better in the metaverse, but we're going to take all the issues that exist now online and we're just going to put them in 3D. So I think, don't give money to people, don't believe someone is who they are without proof. I mean, those sorts of things need to be put into place, and I'm sure they will. Like, you'll have a friends list, you'll know that it's probably your friend, but again, verifying is never a bad thing. Text someone, is this, or am I talking to you? Like, those personal things are still going to need to happen, unfortunately, because you want to protect yourself.
Right. So don't trust the Nigerian princes who want to send you $1 million.
Yeah, they're in a jam because they're a scammer. I mean, my last segment I did on TV was about how to not get scammed. And the IRS is a popular scam. So we're coming up on tax time, which will be passed when this airs, so I won't go into it too much. But tax scams are one of the most common, email scams. It's just sort of have that question in your mind when something asks you to log in and give account numbers, or if some email indicates an emergency. It rarely is. So the way that scammers catch people is they create a false sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Your account's been hacked. You need to log in and re-verify all your account information. Well, does that make sense? Just taking that second to read the URL that you're being directed to. Is that really the right URL? Is it end in .gov? Does it have any dashes or spaces? Those sorts of things. Just that second of skepticism will save you, because let me tell you, these scams are getting better and better. I had one call recently it looked like it was from the City of Austin Power. And it said City of Austin Power. It said my bill was overdue. And I actually went and logged in. I was like, wait a minute, I'm on auto pay. But it was prompting me to enter on the phone. And I was like, no. Hung up, and sure enough, they actually had a warning about it on their site, because that many people had gotten the call. So it's like, things can be faked.
Yeah. And go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, there's very rarely an emergency. Like, don't be fooled.
Sure. And I have to admit, I'm not an early adopter when it comes to any kind of new technology. I remember avoiding working with computers for as long as humanly possible in the 90s, and thinking that the only use for the internet was as a sort of like a digital library. Well, I turned out to be wrong about that. But I think we've come to a point in time where I cannot avoid all the hype around cryptocurrencies and Web3 and NFTs. But maybe you can define those important terms for our listeners, because someone else might not be as familiar with them as you are, and then share your thoughts on how important is Web3? How important are all those NFTs? What are the trends? What are the things that we should all be aware of regarding those new technologies?
So, I mean, you're basically asking me to explain all of crypto.
Yes.
I think
a couple of sentences.
Yeah, of course. I think it's not very approachable to consumers, and all Web3 is a decentralization versus centralization. When the web started out, it was sort of decentralized in that it was a bunch of standalone web pages that were static, and then we migrated into the social graph and Web 2.0, and everything was connected, and then the power was held by several companies, Google, Facebook, the FANG companies, Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google, and Amazon now. FANG has 2 A's. So those companies started to hold the power. And now the idea of Web3 is that we get back to our roots and go open source, go decentral. So information is held by more people versus 1 or 2 big companies. And the blockchain is nothing more than a public database.
Mm-hmm.
It is, if you understand what a database is, you understand what blockchain is, because a blockchain is simply a public database. There are private ones, but majority of blockchains are public. And it is just a way to establish trust between counterparties. So you can never meet me, and we can transact in a public way that is traceable, in a public way that is safe. But it's very technical right now. The usability of it is not quite there. And so there are two major types of tokens. There's fungible tokens,
Mm-hmm.
and there's non-fungible tokens. What we think of as money is what fungible tokens are. They're not unique. So we're talking Bitcoin and, other currencies. Though those can be swapped. One is like the other. So that's what makes them fungible. Now, non-fungible tokens are being used to create art provenance and other things to basically act as a stamp. Think of it as like a notary or digital deed of trust. And so we're going to see a lot more applications of NFTs versus art. We're going to see it for cars. We're going to see it for real estate. We're going to see it being used where there needs to be a stamp in time declaring ownership. And so each NFT is unique. They cannot be swapped. They have some specific thing. And right now we're excited about art, and that's okay. I think it's cool. If that's what gets people into crypto, so be it. I am at peace with that idea, but I do see greater applications, and I hope that eventually the usability improves so that we can get there and normal people will see a reason.
Yeah, it sounds super interesting. And the only thing that made me look into it a little bit more was with the entire Ukraine situation right now. Someone in my network started an NFT art project, and that's how I thought, like, okay, so maybe there's something there that I should explore more. And then I read about minting NFTs and lazy minting and all those terms that I had never heard before. And it's like, okay, I think that's a rabbit hole. Once I go down that rabbit hole, it takes me forever to come back up again. So
that's not a bad thing.
maybe it isn't. Maybe it's an exciting new world. It's like Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, just think of it as it's like a deed to your property, or the title of a car. It just guarantees your ownership of a digital asset.
Right.
And that's all it is. And it's intimidating to people because they don't necessarily understand it. And so it's easier to dismiss it than to learn about it because it doesn't necessarily have an application to daily life yet. I think that's coming. But for right now, it's okay to just sit and watch. My first NFT was a crypto kitty, and I enjoy them, but I'm not obsessed with them. They don't take up a lot of time in my day. So I think it's something that consumers have yet to be compelled to do. I was curious if the conflict over in Ukraine was going to force that. It doesn't look like numbers wise that has happened yet. And mainly because, a lot of major services aren't taking crypto as payment because, if you're a content creator in that part of the world, you're still going to need to deal with the major services. So, that's another argument for decentralization.
Yeah. So what should entrepreneurs right now do to get their businesses ready for that future and to make the most of those new technologies?
I definitely think a culture of learning is a culture that is going to stay ahead of the game. I think experimentation, scientific methods should always be applied to marketing. That is the cornerstone of scalable growth is measurement. And so I will live and die by Pearson's law, which is that which you measure improves. So measuring the things you're doing in marketing, cultivating an organization that wants to learn, where people are rewarded for learning, that, and generally accepting failure. The times I've seen companies fail the most is when, we're hiding the fact that something isn't working. And so recognition of learning of mistakes and new things opens our eyes and keeps us agile to figure out what's coming next and to be ready for the future.
Great tips. Thank you so much for sharing. And last but not least, where's the best place for our listeners to connect with you online?
Well, I am Annebot at everything. So Twitter's where I think I'm hanging out the most. So ANNEBOT, Annebot. I'm Annebot everywhere.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights and tips with us today. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much.
Take care and talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show or share it with a friend. That way you can support the show and help me reach and support other entrepreneurs like yourself as well. If you would like my help to figure out how you can go from overwhelmed and overworked hustler to empowered and confident leader, check out my website at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions and book a free 20-minute strategy session with me. Can't wait to help you get wired for success. Until next time, take care. Bye.